Welcome to U.S. Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Israel rebuffs allies' calls to pause Gaza assault. U.S. shoots down drone in Iraq amid Middle East tensions. Maine governor confirms death of Lewiston mass shooter. Maine mass shooting suspect has been found dead, ending search that put entire state on edge. White House scrambles to repair relations with Arab, Muslim Americans. Israel rebuffs allies' calls to pause Gaza assault. Japan Times. Israel is rejecting calls for a temporary halt in the bombardment of Gaza, despite growing international distress at the conditions for the 2.3 million people trapped under the airstrikes. Major powers, including the United States and the European Union, have called on Israel to allow humanitarian pauses to get aid in and Israeli hostages held by Hamas out. This has opened the first public split between Israel and its allies over the campaign. U.S. shoots down drone in Iraq amid Middle East tensions. Deutsche Welle. U.S. forces have shot down a drone near Al-Assad air base in Iraq. The attempted drone attack followed U.S. strikes on two military facilities in eastern Syria. The U.S. claims that these facilities are used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated groups, which are responsible for attacks on American forces in the region. Pro-Iranian militias have claimed more than a dozen attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria in recent weeks. In addition, influential religious leader Muqtada al-Sadr has called for the closure of the U.S. embassy in Baghdad due to U.S. support for Israel in its conflict with Hamas. Maine governor confirms death of Lewiston mass shooter. Deutsche Welle. The gunman responsible for killing 18 people in Lewiston, Maine, has been found dead, according to Maine Governor Janet Mills. The suspect, Robert Card, was found dead near the Androscoggin River in Lisbon Falls, with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. It is unclear when he died. Authorities had been searching for Card for nearly 2 days before lifting a shelter-in-place order. The victims of the mass shooting ranged in age from 14 to 76. President Joe Biden expressed condolences and called for stricter gun control measures following the shooting. Maine mass shooting suspect has been found dead, ending search that put entire state on edge. Yahoo! The suspect wanted in connection with Wednesday's fatal shootings at a bar and a bowling alley in Maine has been found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The bodies of Robert Card, 40, of Bowdoin, Maine, and his son were found in a home in Lisbon, Maine, on Friday night by a tactical team, according to the Maine State Police. A search was launched for Card after he allegedly entered a bar in Lewiston, Maine, and opened fire, killing 18 people and wounding 3 others. Authorities say Card had firearms training and opened fire at the bar and the bowling alley. Following the shootings, authorities issued murder warrants for Card, who had a criminal record that included charges of domestic violence and drug offenses. Card's family has said he had been hospitalized for mental health issues in the past. Maine Governor Janet Mills described the shootings as a senseless act of violence and ordered all state flags to be lowered to half-staff. White House scrambles to repair relations with Arab, Muslim Americans. Washington Post. The war in Israel and Gaza has strained relations between President Biden and his Muslim and Arab American voters. Many are angry over Biden's remarks questioning the number of Palestinian casualties and his perceived support for Israel. This has led to calls for boycotts of the 2024 election by some in these communities. The president has attempted to repair the damage by holding meetings with Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian Americans to address their concerns and condemn hate and discrimination. However, the community feels isolated and adrift, with some considering abandoning the Democratic Party that they had previously viewed as a haven from Republican hostility. They fear that Biden's words and actions have caused irreparable damage and will not be forgotten by voters in the next election. Suspect in mass shooting in Maine that killed 18 found dead. Al Jazeera. The suspect in a mass shooting in Maine that killed 18 people has been found dead. Robert Card, a sergeant at a U.S. Army Reserve base, is believed to have died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Card had a history of mental illness and had been committed to a psychiatric facility earlier this year. The shooting, which took place at a bowling alley and a restaurant, is the deadliest episode of gun violence in the U.S. this year. President Joe Biden condemned the attacks and called for stricter gun control measures. FTX's Bankman-Fried admits mistakes, denies fraud at trial. Al Jazeera. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried has testified in his own defense during his fraud trial in New York, admitting to making mistakes but denying defrauding customers. Bankman-Fried stated that a lot of people got hurt when FTX collapsed, but he never intended to steal from anyone. He portrayed himself as a visionary who was overwhelmed with work and lacked knowledge about the cryptocurrency industry when he founded FTX. Bankman-Fried is accused of using FTX funds for risky trading by his hedge fund Alameda Research. He has been charged with fraud, embezzlement, and criminal conspiracy. Bankman-Fried pleaded not guilty to all charges. He criticized his ex-business partner and former girlfriend Caroline Ellison, who testified on behalf of the prosecution, and claimed she failed to put safeguards in place to protect against a market downturn. Bankman-Fried is expected to face cross-examination by government prosecutors on Monday. 2 white boaters plead guilty to misdemeanors in Alabama riverfront brawl. Associated Press. 2 white boaters involved in a riverfront brawl in Alabama have pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of harassment and assault. The brawl, which occurred in August, gained national attention after video footage of the fight went viral. The incident began when the white boaters refused to move their pontoon boat to allow a city-owned riverboat to dock. The co-captain of the riverboat was attacked after moving the pontoon boat a few feet to make way. 4 white boaters and 1 black man were charged in connection with the incident. 2 of the white boaters entered guilty pleas, with one receiving a 4-month suspended sentence and the other ordered to complete anger management classes. The cases of the remaining defendants have been postponed until next month. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Six from the 6 Degrees World, your resident observer here to bring you the latest news. Let's dive right in. First up, we have Israel refusing calls to pause its assault on Gaza, despite growing international distress. Major powers like the US and the EU are urging Israel to allow humanitarian pauses, but it seems they're not heeding the calls. This has caused a public split between Israel and its allies over the campaign, and things are getting tense. In other news, the US has shot down a drone in Iraq amid Middle East tensions. The drone was allegedly targeting the Al-Assad air base, following US strikes on military facilities in eastern Syria. Pro-Iranian militias have been causing trouble in the region, and influential religious leader Muqtada al-Sadr is even calling for the closure of the US embassy in Baghdad. It's a real mess over there, folks. Moving on, we have the tragic incident in Maine where a mass shooter killed 18 people. The suspect, Robert Card, has been found dead with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. It's a heartbreaking event, and President Biden has expressed his condolences and called for stricter gun control measures. It's a reminder that we still have a long way to go in addressing this issue. Speaking of gun violence, the White House is scrambling to repair relations with Arab and Muslim Americans after the war in Israel and Gaza strained the relationship. President Biden's remarks questioning the number of Palestinian casualties and his perceived support for Israel have angered these communities. The president is now holding meetings to address their concerns and condemn hate and discrimination. It's a tough situation, and the damage may not be easily repaired. In the world of finance, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is testifying in his own defense during his fraud trial. He admits to making mistakes but denies defrauding customers. Bankman-Fried portrays himself as a visionary who was overwhelmed with work and lacked knowledge about the cryptocurrency industry. It's a high-stakes trial, and we'll be keeping a close eye on how it unfolds. Lastly, we have a case of a riverfront brawl in Alabama that gained national attention. 2 white boaters involved in the brawl have pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of harassment and assault. The incident started when the white boaters refused to move their boat to allow a city-owned riverboat to dock. It's a reminder that tensions can escalate quickly, and it's important to find peaceful resolutions. That's all the news I have for you today, folks. Remember to stay informed and stay engaged. And now, I'll turn it over to you. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions? Let's open up the floor for discussion. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.